Hey, so I have just finished grading your papers and I have input the grades on Blackboard, and you should receive or should have received an email from me with your graded paper attached to it. Make sure you thoroughly review the comments that I left for you on the paper and scroll down to the bottom to look at the graded rubric. So you'll see some comments, of course, and then the highlighted things on the rubric are some things for you to think about. Overall, the papers were okay. A few things I want you to take note of. This is English 306, which means the upper level course. And in an upper level course, you should know that if there's a blue squiggly line underneath one of your words, that means there's a grammatical issue. You should be changing that, not me. I got the vibe that a lot of you rushed through the paper. You should be spending time working on these things. There were a lot of errors that were really elementary in a lot of ways that at a 306 level I should not be seeing, like grammatical things like incorrect to, you know, using wrong verb tense, stuff like that, that there's really no excuse for that at this point. I can deal with content issues, that's fine, but things like poor editing, sloppy revisions, I can't deal with that. So some of you need to spend a little bit more time writing your papers. Almost all of you, with the exception of maybe just one person, needs to make sure that you are looking through the prompt. Most of you started off with kind of sort of a definition, but really wrote me an argumentative paper about the topic, not about your definition. And about 75% of the papers were very much like a rant. It's really important that you take time to go back and make sure that you have read the prompt, you know what you're supposed to do, that you're following the prompt, that you're staying on topic. Also, it's important for all of you to keep your tone in check. There were a lot of papers that kind of just jumped off into this like ongoing rant that got a little abrasive in a lot of ways. If you want your reader to listen to you and to believe you, you need to have an appropriate tone. It is never okay to generalize. Nothing is true for everybody. So you never want to give blanket statements about like everybody knows this. You know, in America, all Americans know such and such. That's never true, right? In fact, most of the blanket statements that those of you who made them, that you had made, I actually had never heard that before. So it's really important that you make sure that you are not generalizing your audience. Also, it's important that you make sure you're paying attention to your structure. There's a lot of problems with paragraphing. If you don't know how to paragraph, there's great sources or resources on the internet. You can also ask me. These are all problems that can be very easily fixed with attention to detail, reading the prompt, and asking questions. I know it can be really tricky to correspond via email. This is an online class, so we don't have the luxury of having that immediate feedback that we would get in a seated class. So of course you can email me. I can't promise you'll get back to you right away. There were some issues over the weekend where I didn't get back to the students until later on Monday. But one way that you can get some feedback is to ask questions early. And also you can go to the writing lab. If you are in town, you can go there and have a seated tutoring session. If you're not in town for the summer, you can even have an online session where you send your paper, they give you feedback and return it. You just need to make sure that you do that or give them enough time for them to look at your paper before the due date. Most of you had good language skills. If those of you that used research used it pretty well. The big problem was not following the prompt. The number one key to good writing is doing what you are supposed to do and sticking with that the whole way through, right? So this paper was supposed to be a definition essay where you took one term or idea and defined it in your own unique way and then showed various ways in which that's true. A lot of you had good topics, but then just wrote about it in society. You didn't tell me how you defined it. I got a lot of papers that convinced me that I'm supposed to believe something, but you didn't actually tell me how you defined it. So for example, equality was a big topic. So I read a lot of papers about how equality needs to be in culture. People should be treated equally. Yes, I agree. Equality is important, but how do you define equality? That's what I need to know, right? How do you define equality? I don't need to know that it's supposed to be there. I need to know how you define it. So for your next batch of papers, I'm hoping to read some stronger papers. I'll be honest. I was expecting these to be a little bit stronger than they were. I know that it's a short semester and the time is limited. I also know that online can be difficult because, again, we don't have that feedback like we get in a seated class. So as we get into the next paper, it is more important now than ever that you make sure you're asking questions. You can also ask each other questions on Blackboard. You don't just have to resort to me. If you can't get a hold of me, or whatever, you can ask each other questions. You can ask the writing lab questions. You can research things on the internet. You have lots of choices. Um, so with that said, I would get started on your next papers right away. So your next paper will be a research essay. Again, this paper should be 2 to 3 pages. You are to develop a sophisticated argument about any chosen topic within the following categories. I'm reading right off of the sheet, sorry. Those categories are the same ones that we had for the first paper. You are welcome to revisit the same topic. That is fine with me. If you didn't get a good grade or if you want to make some changes to the topic, that's fine. But if you're confident with the topic you chose the first time, you're more than welcome to use that topic. You should be using outside research to support your ideas. And when I say outside research, I only mean scholarly sources. That's it. There are no news sources, no popular media, scholarly sources, and they must be from the library. Really, scholarly journals are the best. Of course, there are a lot of books with great essays and stuff in them too. You should be providing evidence, and we are kind of focusing on this idea of evidence this week. So as you're gathering your evidence, your examples, and your data, really think about ways in which you can integrate this in a creative, fluid way. So just a few things here. I have a little section of hints maybe to help you with this paper. Do not use any unreliable sources from Google, no Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a fabulous place to start your research. It's the worst place to end it. One tip I have about Wikipedia is to visit Wikipedia, scroll the whole way down to the bottom, look at their resources, and go from there. Because sometimes they have really great resources. I actually used or found some of my resources for my master's thesis that way. So Wikipedia itself isn't citable, but maybe what they're using can help you either get to better information or maybe be the information you're looking for. Make sure you consider your audience and think about what they need to know. That was another problem in the papers that I just read. Many of you weren't considering what your readers need to know. You just kind of threw these ideas out there without explaining them, without explicitly stating what you mean. You just kind of assume that your reader got it. Make sure you're sticking to the purpose of the assignment. I can't say this enough. Go to the writing center and then also pick a narrow, manageable topic. That was something else I noticed in this last batch of papers. So, for example, gender. Gender is a great term to define, but in 2 to 3 pages, that's actually a lot to define. So maybe scale it back another notch to just defining masculinity, right? That'd be totally fine. That's probably actually a better paper. The smaller the topic with the most information, the better off you are. So again, this paper is 180 points. The rubric is attached. If you have questions about the grading, let me know. In terms of grading for your last papers, I'm already receiving some emails with students saying they're concerned about the grades. A few things to keep in mind. One, you have this paper and your next paper to earn some points. And two, I have the grading worked out so that you have some wiggle room to flop a little bit on the paper. If you've noticed that your discussion boards, your peer review, your journals, and your one-page responses, you're getting credit for if you're doing them and you're doing them well. So most of you already have a lot of points in the class. So you do have some wiggle room. I know you want the most points possible, but that's not always, what's going to happen. So I'm not going to change any grades. It's just not how I run my classes. But what I will do is do my best to help you get a better grade on paper 2 and 3. So keep up with the smaller assignments. Those are the things that will make or break your grade. These essays, of course, they do affect your grade. But if you don't do your journals and your discussion boards and peer reviews, that starts to take points off your grade really, really quickly. So keep up with those. Do the best you can on your next 2 papers. I'll be around all week if you have any questions. Remember, if you're trying to get a hold of me via email, I just have a really crazy schedule, so I'm not going to get to your email right away. The last 2 days, I've only been able to get to my email in the mornings. So just give me enough time and we can meet. I'm trying to think here. Again, Skype is a good way to meet too. You just didn't, excuse me, you need to give me time to meet you on Skype. If you have questions, let me know. I'm looking forward to reading more focus papers in the next batch. I'm looking forward to reading better edited papers in the next batch too. It is worth everyone's while to print the paper and read it out loud. There were a lot of really unacceptable errors. So please make sure that you're paying attention to that. If you have questions, let me know. Have a great day.